This is the Let's Get Real Estate Show with your host, Danielle Chason.
Full-time investor, strategic consultant, motivational coach, sought-after speaker,
and host of your #1 real estate investing show, Let's Get Real Estate,
where real people are doing real estate.
Hey everybody, it's Danielle Chason here, and we're back with the Let's Get Real Estate podcast. This is where I bring to you real people doing real estate. And today I'm bringing to you Evelyn Santizo. Evelyn, is in the house.
Hi.
How's it going, honey?
Oh, I'm good. Just trying to do all the things and getting the kids to school and, chasing after them and making sure that I have all the things I need to do in line, when we have all these things on us as entrepreneurial women doing real estate and being moms at the same time. So you know how it is. And still trying to look as beautiful as possible.
It's definitely a balancing act. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today is how are we going to balance being an entrepreneurial mom, which means you're an entrepreneur and you're a mom, and still do what you do because you're huge on networking and getting out to events. And how do we balance that? And how do we choose which are the good events to go to and which do we pass up on? Because every time you do an event, you're sacrificing mom time. And that's really difficult because then you're coming home and then you're playing catch up, spending more time with the kids, and of course, doing all the stuff that moms do around the house as well, right? Mm-hmm. So before we get into that though, Evelyn, just want to have a little bit of a background for you. You're heavily invested in land development projects with you and your partners. You also do consulting on those. You've got your MFT, your mutual fund trust that you're launching, you're putting together now. So I'm very excited to see where that goes. Yeah. And you also co-organize REI Social Club here locally in the Toronto area. So lots to talk about, lots going on. But before we do that, how about you introduce yourself to the audience and give us a little bit of background of how you got into real estate?
Sure. Should I start from the very beginning or should I just start in high school? Because I could go all the way back to childhood.
Well, let's condense it in about 2 or 3 minutes, just so people can understand a little bit. Yeah.
So basically, I come from immigrant parents, as most of us do. Seeing them, go through the struggles of adapting to a new culture in Canada and even learning the language and all of that. And the certain set of beliefs that they have come to Canada with, and the inspiration and the, optimism of a new country and being able to adapt to the culture. I was always kind of set as the eldest in my family, so I always had to be the one in charge, the one responsible for everybody, making sure that everybody was taken care of, making sure that nobody was scared. And if some issue came up, I always tried to find a solution for my sisters and my family members in a whole. So overall, I've always been given a lot of responsibility on my shoulder. And, throughout the years, I always felt that was kind of something that I enjoyed, was to make others feel good and to basically get to know as many people as possible, because I found that when you create these authentic relationships with people, you grow into like very special networks. You have opportunities then on your hand, and many other things happen, and it's really a great way to live your life. So I found myself having many friends throughout my childhood. Then I decided that I wanted to go to school, and being the type of person that I am, and I wanted to help out, I decided I was going to go into police work and nursing at that time. But
those
at
are
that
two
time,
very different things.
yes, I was, I really wanted to do that for the longest time, but my parents being immigrants from back home, they thought it was a little bit dangerous and exposure too much. So I took their advice and decided to go a totally different route and making people feel beautiful. And what I did is I went into fashion. I went into fashion merchandising and business management. And so I did a whole bunch of traveling all around the world to learn about the different product lines in both beauty, health, and wellness. I was in charge as a general manager of hospitality for multiple hotels in the spa industry. I used to do fashion show production, all that sort of stuff. So being in the hospitality industry, I found that I had a lot of people asking me how do you put together an event, and how can I make it the best and how to promote it. So then I went to university for business management and got my degree in that. After a number of years of doing business development consulting for a number of different small businesses, both in the spa industry and in the beauty industry, I realized that there was a huge gap and a huge need for somebody to find the right location for these business owners. So of course, I kept on, inquiring with different real estate brokers, and I realized, you know what, this is something I can definitely do. I talk to a lot of people, and I always tend to find the right fit and the right, location. So that's how I started my journey in real estate about 10 years ago. 15 years of business consulting. And after that, the ball started rolling, just by growing my network, talking to people, creating authentic relationships, and learning about people from the start. So in my my personality, I love to get to know people personally, as well as in the business mind frame as well, because I find the best partnerships are done through a connection of energies, synergies. And even though, like, for example, what I'm good at might be different than what you're good at, um, I find that when you put together a team with everybody with their own specialties, it usually creates a fabulous synergy, and it catapults you to the next level.
I like that word, catapults.
Yes.
It truly does. It truly does. Now, you and I, we met about a year ago.
Mhm.
I think you were following me beforehand. So you joined the mastermind that I was already in, and you came in. It was quite funny to me because you're like, I want to see what you're wearing because you always love to dress up and wear bling. And after a year of knowing you, Evelyn, I had no idea that you're actually in the fashion industry. So shame on me. I should have known that. Yeah, I had no idea. So that explains a lot why you keep checking out my shoes.
Your shoes, your hair, your nails, all of it. And sometimes lately I've noticed we kind of like always matched and coordinated somehow.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Well, again, it's that energy when the energy connects, right?
Yes.
So we also, like you said, we share having children and being in real estate, and being in real estate and doing what we do. Sometimes our schedules are kind of all over the place. Like some days I work super late, some days I work super early, depending on what's going on. I work weekends, and I know you do the same. So tell me a little bit about how you balance that out, because I know even if I don't want to be biased here. Even if you're not a mom, but you're a dad, that also applies. And there are a lot of single dads or co parent dads as well that have to manage this. In fact, a friend of mine, I was just talking to him the other day, he's recently divorced and now has to struggle a little bit with organizing his schedule. So, what are the things that you do in order to balance that and make that work?
Well, interesting enough, the number one support that I got when I first started my journey were my parents, of course, because back then I didn't have a partner. I currently do. But in those days, it was a consistency of support from my parents and my family, helping me to take care and manage my daughter at the time, and continuously supporting me in all the things that I was doing, knowing that everything was going to help me to get to that level that I was looking to get to, and now I have a very supportive partner, and we're always planning the next thing, and he's very supportive of all my events that I go to, all the trips I go to, and sometimes we try to incorporate the kids into it. So for example, when we went to Vancouver, they were staying in a hotel nearby where our conference was being held, and he took them swimming, they went to the zoo, they went to all the places in the area. And then on the weekend when we had the time off, I would kind of come in and do the things with the kids. And once I was home, I always like fully focus all my energies on what it is the kids want, out of that time, whether they want to go to the movies, they want to go for hockey, or they just want to spend time with mommy cuddling. Like, I have a 4 year old, so you can imagine, all my 4 year old wants is to cuddle with mama. So I just sit on the couch with him, and we have conversations, and sometimes he combs my hair, and that's enough. That's basically what he needs from mommy, right? Like he wants to have mommy time. And my daughter's 13, so she's a teenager, and she has to tell me all the stories about all the issues and all the things that are happening in her life, and trying to guide her along, as a good human, and giving her the right advice of what I know, right? Because back in the days when we were teenagers, it was a little bit different than it is now. So sometimes she tells me, Mom, you're from the 90s or whatever. So, and I'm just like,
It's
okay,
funny.
well, you know, for me, doesn't matter which decade, parents are always going to think the way they think. And, the kids are always going to have a new generation and a new way of thinking. And some of the things that she teaches me are valuable because I didn't know. Like when TikToks first started being popular, I'm like, TikTok? I'm like, what the heck is TikTok? And Instagram and all those things, and Snapchat. I didn't know what that was. But anyway, she gave me all of the, what's what, the current.
And now you're all over that because you're doing lots of videos and you're really big with networking and connecting people.
Hmm.
And I love what you said about integrating that. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing.
Hmm.
So some people think, okay, I'm going away for this conference. So they leave their family behind. And what you've done is you've said, you know what, let's make a deal here. Let's compromise. Let's have a bit of both. So let me go to the conference. You guys come too. We can have a little mini vacation. And so while we were in Vancouver at that mastermind,
Hmm.
you go a couple of days early or stay a couple of days late. And while you're in the conference, dad or your partner can go and help out and have fun with the kids and do some sightseeing. And then the days before or after that you're there, then you can do it as a family and still give that. But I want to circle back to what you said about time,
Hmm.
because you said, you sit on the couch with your 4-year-old and he just brushes out your hair and that's all he needs. And honestly, what you're giving him in that moment is your time, your undivided attention. And you're right. And I think as parents and as busy entrepreneurs, we struggle with stripping it back and going back to the basics.
Hmm.
And really, time is probably our most sacred resource.
Hmm.
And that is the one thing that we really do need to give to our family.
Hmm.
So I love how it's not about what you're doing, it's about doing.
Hmm.
And so I love how you've tapped into that. And I think that's a really good lesson for the audience to hear, is that be mindful about where you spend your time and who you spend it with. It's not necessarily about what you're doing, but it's just about being together.
Hmm. Absolutely. And sometimes even just watching them dance, or just having a little conversation about his world and his friends and the things that he experiences in school, that in itself is like it brings a whole other level of his little person and who he is and what he thinks and how he sees mommy, right? So I know sometimes when I'm going out the door and he goes, Mommy, you look pretty, and he'll say, where's your sparkles? Because maybe I forgot to put on my necklace or something, but he knows that mommy likes sparkles. So he'll always say, where's mommy sparkles? Right. And it's like, okay, so he notices these things. And despite the fact that he's only 4, he knows that that's what mommy likes. So it's very, heartwarming to know that your kids are watching. And even like, for example, my 13-year-old, who says she's not really listening, she told me the other day a story about her teacher asking about real estate. And the teacher asked all the kids in her class, how much would it cost to buy a house? Some kids were saying $100, $200, $1,000. And my daughter put her hand up and she's like, no way, you guys need at least 650,000 for a townhouse if you're lucky. So the teacher gave her a gold star, and I'm like, oh my God. So she is actually listening, you know?
You know, and I love that you said that, because when you are an entrepreneurial mom, you have to be a little bit creative. And one of the things that I used to do was I'd have to drive to pick up my kids at 2:40 from school, which is early. It's in the middle of your workday. It's mid-afternoon. I'm working till 5 or 6. And the kids, I kind of trained them that, look, I can come and pick you up so you don't have to go to an after school program, but I need to make phone calls while I'm in the car. And so I would schedule phone calls while I was driving, and the kids learned so much from those drives, so much. I think, I don't know if I've empowered them or corrupted them, but one way or another, they're definitely, whether intentionally or not, they do listen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do the exact same thing, especially when we're going on those long drives up towards the cottage country. I have like at least 10 to 15 phone calls lined up, and my kids are listening, and they hear what I'm talking about. My daughter now is telling me, "Mommy, I want to have my own business when I get a little bit older." And last year we actually attempted to do a little Shopify account, and we did a mommy and daughter like outfit sales through Alibaba, and that was her little summer job, and now she wants to work already, and she's only 13, and I'm like, you can still wait a little longer, but she's like, no, I want to do my own business. I want to try to do something, like create accessories or something for dogs, because she loves dogs. So
Yeah, well, that's brilliant. And you need to harness that absolutely when they're young. I
mhm,
wish I had a parent that would help me out when I was that young, right? So I think empowering our kids 100%. But again, coming back to being creative
mhm.
and balancing everything, how do you find, so if we're giving time to our business and we're giving time to the kids sitting on the couch, what about time for managing the household and all of that? How do you, because you're also going out to events in the evenings, and I know I personally know how that chews up the time that I would otherwise maybe be tidying up my house or cooking dinner or doing laundry.
Yeah.
So what do you do in order to make sure all of that gets done? Is there any creative tips you can give the audience?
Well, I have the who, not how, so I have hired somebody to help me with cleaning. In terms of laundry, I always do it when I know I'm going to be home. So even if it's during the day or during the evening, whenever I'm home, I do throw a load of laundry. I also have my daughter taking care of her own laundry. My partner is very supportive. He does his own laundry as well. And whenever we have the little one's laundry, anybody's free to throw it into the washing machine. In terms of dishes, we have the dishwasher, but obviously the dishes that can't be washed in the dishwasher, we have turns, and we have like a little chart of who gets to do the pots and pans today, and who's gonna help warm up dinner, and you know prioritizing in terms of the beginning of the week, putting together little like packets ready to go. And I've actually come through this thing called We Cook, where they send you all of the ingredients already ready to be cooked, and they even send you the recipes. So I've been doing that a lot, and I find my daughter's really enjoying learning how to cook.
Yeah, you know what? I did that too for a while. It was I forget the name. Oh gosh, I
Little
did
Tom?
that for a while too. Yeah, there's so many out there now, and it's just brilliant because it takes the thinking out of cooking. And when you're an entrepreneur, there's so much in your head that just having that pre-planned, and you just need to like pull it out of the fridge and throw it together. It just makes it so much easier, which I can also do while on a call. So, again, it's just about kind of pre-planning and being prepared and helping out so that way you can maximize your time. What I will say is this: I love how you have kind of a chart for doing the dishes and maybe enrolling the family members to engage and to help out, because it doesn't all need to be one person that's managing everything in the house.
Yes,
So I did that with my kids. They do help out with their laundry, they help out with dishes, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but the little bit that they do goes a long way, a long way.
absolutely, absolutely.
Those are great tips. I
Yes.
think I think I want to shift gears
Hmm.
because you're really big in mindset as
Hmm.
well.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about mindset
Hmm.
and how that's changed how you do business. So is there a point in your career where you noticed there was a big shift in your mindset, or where mindset was really important? Because everybody talks about it, but until you've made that shift and realized it, you don't really understand it.
Hmm. So for me, it was, having to pivot and basically reinvent myself each time. I've had a few adversities happen in my life where I literally had to reinvent my entire being in a new area, meeting new people. So, adaptability has been a huge factor in terms of mindset, and knowing that. once you learn how to adapt and really overcome anything that comes at you and look at the positive side of what's happening in front of you, because sometimes when you think that something is for you, but it doesn't actually happen the way you think it's going to happen, it's actually the universe is bringing to you, because that's what you are supposed to receive. So the universe brings you exactly what you need, even when you think that what you need is something different.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So,
And I always tell people, like, there's always a breakthrough on the other side of the pain.
yes.
And that's what you're describing.
Yes. So when you sometimes feel like you've hit the bottom and you don't know which way to go, you always have to think about where you've been in the past and where you see yourself in the future, and embodying that person that you feel that you are, regardless of whether or not you're there yet. But when you live and breathe that person in your heart and in your mind each and every day, and what would that person be doing each day in order to, keep on being successful and creating and building amazing relationships and allowing that energy to come to you and manifest into opportunities. Because even like the way that I run my business right now, I'm not putting huge advertisements out there. It's just about creating the relationships, the opportunities land in your hand, and it's up to you how you're going to approach that, how you're going to see the best possible outcome of that opportunity. And if that opportunity is not for you, then the universe will bring you another that is better suited for you and what the universe wants you to be. So I always believe highly in, meditating and allowing yourself as well as a busy entrepreneur for me time. And I find that when you do me time, whether it's having a bubble bath, whether it's relaxing in the spa, whether it's having a focused meditation just before you go to bed, or when you just wake up in the morning, setting your intention and being very present about what you're going to accomplish that day, or that you're going to allow the universe to bring the best possible outcome to your day each and every day, that is what brings you and manifests what you need for you. I read a book called The Seven Levels of Acceptance. So basically, it talks about seven levels that we go through to accept what the universe is bringing to us as what is needed for us.
And
And
how has that changed your life? What was the biggest lesson that you learned from that book?
just that whatever comes to you is what's meant for you. And basically, being, how did they put it again? Um, Not caring about the outcome, but just about what the universe is bringing to you. So basically, completely detaching yourself from the outcome and allowing the universe to bring what is yours. That is the most important lesson that I've learned so far. Because if you attach yourself to what the outcome's supposed to be, that is when pain hits. That is when disappointment starts. That is when uh, people have depression and resentment and jealousy and all of that. And I do believe that everybody has their own gift, and whatever comes to them is for them, and whatever comes to you is for you. So, most definitely, detachment from the outcome is the biggest lesson I have learned, because the universe will bring what is yours.
Yeah, I am a firm believer that acceptance is one of the key components or key ingredients when it comes to inner peace and happiness. Without acceptance, you can't let go of what pain or suffering that you've experienced. You have to accept that to have happened and be okay with it, essentially, in order for you to let it go. And I think that's what you're alluding to. Like, you need to accept so that if you're not married, because when you're married to the outcome is you're not accepting that the outcome you want, it didn't happen. So you have to accept the outcome that did happen in order for you to let that go so you can move on, right?
Mhm.
And acceptance is really critical, in my opinion, in order to be able to just let go of the baggage. Just accept things that they're meant to happen for a reason. I live my life by that. Everything happens for a reason. And when you can just accept that and say, you know what? That's okay. This wasn't meant to happen for me. There was a lesson here that I need to learn. What is that lesson so that I can be better and more prepared next time the situation arises? And if you can just accept things for what they are and are meant to be, it does definitely make life a little bit easier. Wouldn't you say, Evelyn?
Absolutely. I've had many situations in my life where, in the past, before I've learned this acceptance, where, there has been turmoil inside, and letting go of that is so freeing and so like beautiful in itself, especially when it keeps on coming in waves, because life doesn't happen in a straight line. It happens in waves and roller coaster rides, and some side upside down. And you just have to kind of like put your hands up and go, woo! When you're in the roller coaster of life, because you never know what's going to happen. You plan for one thing, and then life throws a curveball at you, and then you just have to be ready to, roll with it, and just keep on going and try your best to realize that it's not you, it's what's meant for you, right? It's what you needed in your heart at that time. And a lot of times I've had to like go back and think about why did that happen. And when I realized that the reason that it happened was because that was exactly perfect for me at that time, and the lesson I needed to learn, as you said. So yeah, it's something that we always, you know, as mothers, we always think like, oh, maybe it could have been this or it could have been that. But then you realize that, this is exactly what we needed, or this is exactly what our child needed at that time, or what our fellow coworkers, friends, or the whole circumstance, partnerships. Sometimes you don't understand why things happen, but then they kind of like flow into the right direction, and then other opportunities keep on coming, like, people,
Mhm.
relationships, friendships. Sometimes you don't even know where you're gonna, like. I always believe in the art of always giving everybody uh, your best, how you say, basically open heart, and allowing them to show you who they are, in order to really be able to connect with them in their level. And you never know, the person that you least thought out of the right side would be a person that would be very important in your life, sometimes becomes the most important person in your life, due to whatever the reason might be, whether it's an opportunity, a partnership, a relationship, a friendship. Like, you never know, they come out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden they're like your angel, and you're like, oh my God, how did that happen? And the person you least expect, you're not even looking for that person, they just come into your life. And sometimes they stay for a long time, and sometimes they're just there for that moment in time when you need them for a certain purpose. So I've learned that.
Yeah, and I think when you do learn to accept things, then that's when you've really dialed in the art of going with the flow. And I've also always said, like, learn to flow with the current. You just go with it, because then you've got momentum that's pushing you and things just happen the way they should. If you're trying to fight the outcome, like you said, and you're hanging on to that, you're swimming upstream and you're swimming against the flow of the water, and life is very difficult, and you do miss the people that are going to carry you along the way. Those are the people that show up, that you're talking about, that show up when
Mhm.
you flow and you follow life the way it's supposed to happen. Then those people do show up and you're ready to receive them. That's beautiful. I love that.
Mhm.
I think it's really hard though for people to deal with really tough situations and accept that. So, is there anything that has happened in your life where it was really hard to accept the outcome, to process that, and to accept it so that you could let it go and move on? Is there a time that you remember where it was really difficult?
Of course, I've had a number of adversities in my life, and I have been divorced. And obviously, the end of a relationship that you think is going to last forever, and you're, head over heels in love in the beginning. And if it doesn't go exactly as planned, and you think you're going to live happily ever after, but then it becomes something different, uh, and being in that space, in that sadness at that time, when I was a different person. I say I'm a different person because I feel like I got reborn through the ashes of what my life used to be in that time frame. So I feel like the phoenix who came out of the ashes and started flying. And I became the person that I am now because of those dark, dark experiences when I literally felt in darkness, in a deep, deep hole where I couldn't see any other way out. And just in the side of my eye, I saw this little tiny light, which I call at that time it was my daughter. She was the one thing that kept me going. She was the reason, the why, the reason that I needed to get out of that that life. And so I took all of my energy that I could to get myself back out of there and just flourish through, because it was a very dark time. And I I feel like if I didn't experience that in my life, I wouldn't be who I am today.
And so that's a big lesson for anybody who's listening, who's really struggling and going through a dark time, going into a dark time, or is struggling to fight their way out of a dark time. Guys, it's cyclical, it's a season, it doesn't last, and this is preparing you for the next chapter of your life. And so you have to go through the grieving process for any loss, whether it's a death or any other loss in your life, such as the loss of a marriage, anything like that, any relationship, a best friend, any whatever it is. You have to go through that process.
Yeah.
But on the other side, you're going to be better equipped to receive something new. And so I think those are really wise words, Evelyn. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Mhm.
Is there anything that you wanted to talk about, maybe that you see now that people, with the networking that you do and the socializing and the connecting that you do with people, is there anything out there that you see people really need right now that we don't maybe talk about so much?
Well, I think that there's a lot of people out there um, who feel less than, or they feel like they're not reaching that cap that they want to reach, like almost like a ceiling. Um, there could be sometimes, I guess, jealousy and like unspoken drama that I'm the type of person who, I'm doing what I'm doing. I do it with all of my heart. And whoever is in that light and in that space and in that energy and wants to come along the ride with me, you're welcome. And those that don't see in the same level, or maybe not in the same energy, that's okay. They're not there yet.
Mhm.
Maybe later, I'm always open to other opportunities and other times. Like, there's a long life, and sometimes at first when you meet somebody, maybe you feel like there's this like really hard stop wall, because some people really cover themselves in this like steel in not being able to get through to them. But sometimes those people are the ones who are the softest inside and have the biggest hearts, and that's why they protect their heart with such level of, you know, power. So I have learned that my best friends are always super strong women who are actually huge hearts, and I love those type of people because they're protecting their energy, but at the same time, once you get into their circle, into the point where they can trust you, being authentic, like still being yourself. You don't have to be somebody different because they'll read right through that. So by being yourself, you're able to align with them and have an energy and a synergy that works, and it becomes a beautiful relationship. So I would say to those people who feel like they need to put up the wall, that sometimes not everybody's out to get you, that sometimes people are genuinely trying to be there for you. And there's a lot of analysis paralysis of personality sometimes I find in between people.
Mm.
They're not just
Mhm.
analyzing deals, they're analyzing you and they're analyzing your personality. So I believe in giving people the benefit of the doubt until they prove you wrong. And that's basically it for me. It's all about, everybody's different, but we all have our gifts, and I believe in accepting everybody's gifts and as they are, because together we can create something beautiful. We need differences in people in order to create fantastic teams and opportunities.
I firmly believe that. If you stay authentic to yourself, then you're going to find the right partners if they're being authentic as well. And that's where you can learn what you need to marry. But you're right. There's a lot of people out there who maybe have been jaded a little bit, and especially coming out of post pandemic. And then we had the interest rate hikes that have really hurt a lot of people. There's been a lot of distrust in the industry. And I think it just brings me back to trust but verify. So you still need to trust people in order to run your business, but make sure you verify. And then that way you don't have to be so jaded. Just do your homework and verify what's being told to you and make sure that somebody's not pulling the wool over your eye. But you're right. Sometimes, it's easier to put up a wall and protect yourself. But then at the end of the day, are you really protecting yourself or are you potentially hurting yourself? And I think that's a challenge that I want to put out there to everybody is that don't close yourself off, because if you're contracting, you're not flourishing. You're not being the best version of yourself.
You're not expanding.
So you're not expanding.
Yeah.
If you're contracting, you're not expanding. It's
Yes.
one or the other. Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. And
100%.
I'm
Great words of advice.
yes, absolutely. And I totally believe in flourishing every day and expanding as much as you can, because that's what's going to make you grow. That's what's going to take you to the next level. Because when there's too much fear, you're like this, right? But when you're expanding, you're flying, and whatever
Mhm.
goes beneath your wings, whatever slides through, and let it go. Put it behind you. Don't dwell on it. That's
Yeah.
it.
No, you definitely got to spread your wings if you're going to fly.
Hmm.
Great words of advice, Evelyn.
Hmm.
So listen, we are at time. We're over time. So I'm going to have to wrap it up. Such a good conversation that we were having.
Hmm.
I do like to sign off with two questions that I ask everybody on the show. So let me ask you, what is the one thing that you would tell your former self, your younger self?
Don't be afraid. The step or the bridge will be there. The
I
who
love that.
will be there if you just open yourself up, if you allow. So think of it, feel it in your heart, and it'll be there.
Awesome. Great words of advice.
Hmm.
Now, what's next for Evelyn? So, you're doing land development projects, the consulting we mentioned before. That's consulting on land development, by the way, for those of you who are listening.
Hmm.
You can always reach out to Evelyn for that. She's also putting together a mutual fund trust. That's an MFT that'll be investing on projects as well. So, you can always talk to her about that and how that works. And you've got the REI Social Club. I don't know if you can fit anything else into your calendar with all of this stuff, being a mom and a wife and all of that. But if I were to ask you what's next for Evelyn, what's your answer?
I have I still have a lot to overcome and to do. I feel like somebody asked me the other day, are you going to retire? Like, what does your retirement look like? And honestly, my retirement looks like I'm going to be traveling through different parts of the world, once in the summer, once in the winter, but I'm still going to be running my businesses virtually. With my teams forevermore, because what I'm doing is my passion now. It's not any longer work. I don't feel like it's a job. I feel like it's my passion. I love doing what I do, and I think growing the network of networking, social REI, and other like retreats for women and that sort of thing. I am actually planning on starting my own mentorship program. So that's in the works. So that's what I'm
Nice.
working on. Yeah.
Wow. The fact that you can fit all of that into a day worth of work, Evelyn, I tip my hat off to you. That is a lot. Like I said, I know you go to a lot of these events too, and managing all of that. I know how hard that is. So,
Mhm.
kudos to you for being a leader and showing people and sharing with everyone what you do and how you do it. I do appreciate you coming on the show and revealing all of your secrets and tips. I know that's going to be very beneficial to people out there who are struggling, maybe just to manage all of that. And with that, we're going to have to wrap it up, Evelyn.
Okay.
Any final words of wisdom?
Thank you so much for having me on. And you're always also an inspiration to me. And you know, I'm always there for you. And I always enjoy all of your different things that you're doing as well. So
We do stay busy, don't we? We stay busy.
we do. We do. And you know what? Where there's a will, there's a way. And that's what I always say.
Mm,
You always
I
make
love
time
that.
for what's important.
Love that.
Hmm.
This is Danielle Chason signing off for the Let's Get Real Estate podcast, where I bring to you real people doing real estate. Bye for now.